Hi, folks. I'm William Beasley. I'm a professor at West Virginia University, where I teach instructional design and technology. I spend a lot of my time helping folks design and implement online classes. I also work with an organization called Quality Matters to train faculty peer reviewers for online classes. My co-presenter, Angie.
Hi, I'm Angie Berna Milliren. I'm currently pursuing my EDD in Instructional Design and Technology at WVU. And during the day, I teach grades 9 through 12 in a public high school about a half hour south of Pittsburgh, where I teach half-day music and half-day multimedia and print media productions.
All right, so today what we're talking about is some accessibility issues. Let me start off by giving you some context. Then I will do some examples, and Angie will do some examples, and we'll try to show you some ways of creating and sharing your materials that are likely to make them more accessible for some of your students who may have some disability issues. So when you start to put classes and materials online, one thing that often gets neglected is taking steps to be sure that the content is fully accessible by all students, including those students who may have disabilities of one kind or another. Now, this is a huge area, and we can't begin to cover all of it today. Among other things, it's the territory of something called a Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, which I recommend that you Google for a lot of information. Addressing all possible student disabilities it's a huge task, but addressing some of the most common ones is a lot less daunting. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus on making your documents compatible with screen reader software, which is often used by students with visual disabilities. And also, we're going to focus on providing your videos with accurate captioning and transcripts, which is particularly valuable for students with hearing disabilities. We have three major topics today. First topic is creating documents that are accessible online. We're going to focus on Microsoft Word and Google Docs. This is for documents that you would either like for students to be able to edit, something like a worksheet, for example, or that maybe you would like to modify and share in a non-editable form, maybe a syllabus. Second topic, sharing documents with students. We often do this via turning them into PDF files with Adobe Acrobat. There are some other options you may or may not know about that Angie's going to talk about. Third topic is creating and editing captions for your online videos. So let's launch into topic number one here, which is creating accessible documents. Now, before I share my screen and start actually working on a document here, there are some formatting best practices that apply regardless of what tool you're using to create a document. Creating accessible documents is mostly about formatting. So I'm going to list those three of the most basic principles first. Then I'm going to walk through some examples in Microsoft Word of those three principles. And then my co-presenter Angie will do the same in Google Docs. She's also going to take it a step further and show you how to do this directly in BlackBoard, do the formatting in BlackBoard in case you want to create a document just to be displayed in BlackBoard. So I'm going to see if I can successfully share a screen here and start giving you an example. So let's see. I'm still learning how to use this software. Give me a screen share prompt, please. Here we go. We want, bring up my screen, please. There we go. Okay. So sometimes we have a document, and let's see how interacting with my document. Here we go. This document has a lot of text on it. And it's common when you have a document with a lot of text to want your students to focus on certain portions of the document. You want to direct their attention to certain places in the document. And to do that, you often do things like give it a title. Maybe you make the title really big so that their eyes will oops, forgot to highlight that part there. So we'll make it very large. Maybe you make it really big. Let's make it 20 point. There we go. And maybe you make some things bold-faced to draw students' attention to that. The problem when you do this is this works great for students who can read this with their eyes. But students who are using screen reader software, students who may not be able to see this well, and listening to it through their are going to begin having problems as soon as you use this old-fashioned technique of creating things like a title or a heading. So when I make this big, a screen reader doesn't really pay attention to the fact that it's big. When I make this bold, a screen reader doesn't really know what to do about that. So what you should do in order to make your titles and headings fully accessible to a screen reader is to do this slightly differently. Let me get rid of the boldface, and I'll put this back the way it was. And I'll do it the way that we really should do if we want to create this properly. So we're back where we were. Now, you may or may not know, but up in your toolbar for Microsoft Word, you have a number of different heading choices here. This common misconceptions in the modern world, my intention is that it'd be a title, and there is in fact a title designation here. So I'm going to make that into a title by choosing that rather than just manually making it large. I can still do things like center it if I want, and it's still considered to be a title. But having designated it by using the title marker in Microsoft Word means that a screen reader will recognize that that's a title, and it will announce it as a title when it reads it out loud. It'll say something like, title, Common Misconceptions in the Modern World. By the same token, if I want these to be headings for sections of my document, rather than just making it boldface, for example, I should choose heading, in this case, heading 1, because it's the largest heading other than a title. And the screen reader will now know that this is a heading. Super easy to do. Screen readers can now handle it, and it has the side effect as I do that, that as the screen reader works through, the screen reader software also provides the option from one section to another for the person who's having to listen to it and can't just move down with their eyes. So that's technique number 1 there. That's using headings rather than manually making things larger or a different color, boldface, underline to draw attention. Use headings is principle number 1. Now, I'm going to stop sharing this particular page to go to second technique that we need to talk about. And give me just a second to get the correct one up here. And I want to talk about graphics because we love using graphics. Let's see, let's get down to graphics, and we're going to share. Give me a share, please. Okay, let's do this. We're hoping that pops up. Okay, good. We've got a screen here. Common misconceptions in the modern world. This is still the same document we were working with before. These have been designated up top here to be a title and headings properly. They've been done properly. If you want to double check that, what I can do, make these little guys visible up here. Okay. If I want to come in here and take a look, I can highlight this, and sure enough, it's telling me that is a title. So this is good. Now, I like to add pictures to stuff. Most of us do, but pictures can be a problem with screen reader software because screen readers don't have the ability to look at that and say, oh, I'm software. I recognize a roll of toilet paper. I'm software. I recognize 2 hot dogs. It doesn't know how to do that from looking at the picture. So that's one of the problems. How does the screen reader recognize the actual content of the picture? The other problem has to do with reading order. When you, as a sighted user, look at this document, it's immediately apparent where you should direct your attention and in what order you should read the text. But when we begin moving pictures in, see, I put a picture over here, which when I discovered I could do that in Microsoft Word, I was so happy. It's so cool to be able to move pictures around. So I'd put pictures there, and I'd put pictures over here, and put pictures in the middle and all over the place. This is a problem from a reading order perspective, because if the screen reader is trying to talk about the picture, it doesn't know where to put this picture relative to the text. Does this picture get referred to after the heading, after the first word, after the last word? It's not clear. So when you go putting pictures in lots of fun locations all over the screen, you've done a bad thing. Screen location. Screen location for graphics. Graphics should always be located in line. And what that means is they should be treated as though they were just another letter of the alphabet that you're typing. So if I'm typing along here and I type toilet paper should go over the roll rather than under, and I want the image of the roll of toilet paper to be placed right there, I'm going to either right click or control click here and make sure that this is in line with the text. And it should be right here. Now the screen reader will recognize, it'll say heading 1, toilet paper should go over the roll rather than under, and it will deal with that roll of toilet paper image after the word under. If I've got leggings or pants here, what I should do is make sure that I'm using wrap text here to make sure it's in line with text. And I'm going to put this picture right here. It will come after the last word here. Hot dogs are not sandwiches. We'll make sure it's in line with the text. And we'll put that one over. And put it here. In line, text. Okay, you are in line. You're good. We'll put it at the end there. So it'll be dealt with right after the end there. In line with text is the only way you should include images when you're mixing images and text. But right now, a screen reader doesn't know how to talk about those pictures because it doesn't know the. You need to make sure that you have labeled them with what's called alt tags. I'm going to either right click or control click. And one of the options here is, where are we? Edit alt text. Of toilet paper. That description was automatically generated when I put it in there. So Microsoft Word tried to recognize that. But if I look down here and I say edit alt text for this guy, a person wearing a blue shirt and black pants. Well, they did an automatic description for that one as well. Very nice. So that one does have an alt tag. I was wrong about that. Do we have one for house? Let's alt text. 2 hot dogs. Need an alt tag for that one. Okay. Okay, now I have my images correctly placed and I have alt tags for all of these. So the screen reader should be able to handle the images without any trouble there. So that's the second topic there. The first one was use headings for headings and titles. The second one is be careful with your graphics and be sure that you are using alt tags and placing the graphics in line. Third principle is when you are dealing with lists. So let me stop sharing this image and bring up a screen with some lists on it that we can deal with. Here we go. Old-fashioned way to do lists. There's my list. Let me find my list over here. There's my list. Good. Okay. Old-fashioned way to do list, we would do things like type in a 1 and type in a 2. And if you're a sighted user, this works, although it's kind of tedious if you've got a long list. When we wanted bullets, some of us got fancy and learned the keystroke alternatives. Others of us just used things like putting a pound sign in front of them or an asterisk in front of them, which is also kind of tedious. But a screen reader doesn't know this is a list if you manually put in numbering or you manually put in bullets. The good news is the accessible fix for this one is super simple, which is if you want them numbered, there is a button up in your toolbar here. I just got to get it where I can reach it properly for numbered list. Up top, I'm going to hit numbered list and it gets numbered. Or if you want it to be bulleted, there is up at the top a button for bulleted lists. And we get nice bullets there. That is the preferred methodology for unordered list, that is a bulleted list, that's a fancy name for a bulleted list, or an ordered list, that's the fancy name for the numbered list there. So that's the third principle that we're dealing with there, which is when you're dealing with lists, don't manually make them be a list. Actually designate them as an unordered or ordered list using the toolbar along the way. And then the screen reader will be able to announce them as ordered list, and then it will read off the items on the list. Now, one of the items that we discussed including in this presentation, but we decided not to, which is using tables in your documents. For now, unless this stuff, don't use tables in your documents if you're worried about them being accessible. They raise more accessibility issues than we can cover right now. Tables can get kind of complicated from an accessibility perspective. So we will not be talking about those today. So you've created a document that uses headings or titles. You've made sure that your graphics have alt tags and that they are in line with the text. If you have any lists, you've made sure that you formally designate them as ordered or unordered. Those are three major steps to making sure that you have created a reasonably accessible document by basic standards in Microsoft Word. So how do you use that once you've created it? If you save it as a docx from Word, it will keep those accessibility features. So the screen reader software will be able to handle it when a student accesses that along the way. The catch, and it's not really a catch, but a true thing about that is if you give it to the students as a docx file, not only will they have access to the accessibility features, which is good, but they will also be able to edit that file, which may or may not be good. If it's a worksheet, you probably want them to edit it. If it's something like a syllabus, you probably don't want them to edit it. So in a few minutes, we'll talk about sharing it in some forms that aren't necessarily editable. But before we do that, Angie is going to talk about Google Docs and BlackBoard versions of what I've been talking about here.
So while I was raised on Microsoft Office as a K-12 teacher, I tend to use everything within the Google Workspace because it's available to my students if they're working at home, and it's free. So I have spent a lot of time looking at accessibility within the Google Workspace, aka the Google Suite, because that's what we're using in our school district currently as an Apple one-to-one initiative. All of our students are using their iPads, and then they can easily get into their documents from our learning management system. Walk you through how to format a Google Doc. Let me share my screen. Still trying to figure out how to do that. Sorry. There it is, I think. Okay, so here is a sample Google document for me to share with you. And just like Dr. Beasley had with going through in Word and showing you how to format your headings, your bulleted list, and your images, Google Docs has the exact same ability for those functions. So everything is going to be nested up here in this top ribbon. Here is where you're going to be able to set your format. So this is my title. Is your document accessible? And as you see, I have it set to title. Now, after I have it set to title, one of the cool things I could do is go pick some nice, interesting font. But if I want that to remain every single time, one of the easy things in Google Docs is that I can update title to match. And now every time I define something as title, it's going to come through as this wonderful font instead. So I followed through, and you see I've already set this as a subtitle. I did the same thing with my my heading levels. There's one. Normal text is equal to paragraph in Microsoft Office. Same thing with heading level 2. So that is how you set your heading levels in Google Documents. So I've already inserted a picture. If I wanted to do this from scratch, I'm sure you know how to do this, but I'll go over it. I would go into image. I can either upload something that I have on my computer, or I can search the web and find some appropriate artwork to drop on my page. For demonstration purposes, I picked Hogwarts. I'm a little bit of a Harry Potter fan. So to add an alt text, I control click on a Mac or right click on a PC, and I have alt text. There is a key code, but it's so hard to remember key codes. I just prefer control click on my Mac or right click on my PC. And as you've seen here, I already put the title Hogwarts and the description where I went to school. This would be more a lovely school from the Harry Potter series. So when my screen reader would approach the image, it would say image Hogwarts, and then it would read my description. Next, on to the numbered and unordered lists, ordered and unordered lists. So it's the same premise as it is in Microsoft Office. I select what I want, and as you see up at the top, there is a numbered list button that I can toggle on and off. And the same with the unordered bulleted list that I can toggle on and off. Let's say I want to change what my bullets look like just because I have a different preference, or I want it to look different from my last document. I can do that in here. But that is how we format in Google Documents. Let me unshare this and stop sharing for a second. So I would also like to show you how to do this within your LMS. So you might be using Blackboard, you might use Canvas, Google Classroom. If you're using Google Classroom, you're already using Google Documents, so I've showed you how to do that. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you how to do this in Blackboard. That's what we're using at WVU. In my K-12, I'm using Canvas. So if you'd like to know how to do this in Canvas after, feel free to reach out to me. My email's in the chat. It is not at mail, but it's at Mix. I'll update that in a moment. So I'm going to share my screen again. So we are in one of my sandboxes. I currently am a grad assistant in Davis College at WVU, and I work as designing IDT stuff. So I'm taking in my sandbox. And as you see, I already have 2 samples sort of set up for you. You can either create a module page or you can create a blank page. A blank page in Blackboard will not show any of the information within your module window. A module page, it will show everything that you have in this window. So I'm going to edit this. Takes me into the builder. So just like Google Docs and just like Microsoft Office and Word, it has the same functions at the top so that I can go ahead and format my paragraph, and I can do bulleted and numbered lists. For brevity today, I'm not going to show you how to do the alt tag on an image. That happens when you upload, and there's not a ton of time. But once again, if you'd like me to show you how to do alt text, feel free to reach out to me after this workshop. So I will make a title. It's called a heading. So you only get heading and subheading 1 and subheading 2 because in LMS, Blackboard and Canvas both control the real heading 1 and heading 2 for HTML because it's built into that browser window. So they've changed the terminology, which brings me to a very important part. If you've typed in Google Docs or in Word and you're thinking about copy and pasting over into, I'm going to get out this window. If you're thinking about putting it into your Blackboard, I highly recommend that you clear the formatting or create it directly in your LMS because your headings will not match when you bring them over, and some of them will disappear and remove all of the accessibility, most of the accessibility that you've placed that because of how your headings are built into the LMS structure. So in Blackboard now, if you bring it over, it's going to ask you if you want to keep formatting or clear. Every time, clear it and drop it back in using that window tabs at the top. It'll ensure that it is correct for you. So now that I talked about how to format in Google Docs, I would like to turn this back over to Dr. Beasley, who's going to talk about how we might disseminate and modify these for our students.
Okay. In some cases, you would disseminate them just by making a file available for download, maybe a Microsoft Word file, or by making it visible in your learning management systems, creating a page like Angie just demonstrated doing there. That makes it available to the students. But what if you want to share something with in a downloadable form that they can't edit? We usually do that with PDF files, but one of the things that many people don't know is that there's more than one way to create a PDF file, and the way you do it has major accessibility implications. And another thing that many people don't know is that there are other alternatives to doing it by way of a PDF file. So let's go there right now. Let's start with Microsoft Word. There are, I'm going to say, 2.5 ways to convert a Microsoft Word file into a PDF file. One method that a lot of Mac users are familiar with, some Windows users, there is a print to PDF option. It's built into the Mac, and I think Windows 10 may have it at this point. I'm told that a common app for Windows made print to PDF available for earlier versions. The problem with print to PDF, while it creates a PDF file, is that it does two things. It pretty well strips out all the accessibility features from Microsoft Word that you may have put in there, which is a bad thing. It also deactivates any links that you may have put in there so that they'll no longer be clickable in the resulting PDF file. So I do not recommend using print to PDF to convert a Microsoft Word file to a PDF file. Method number two, Microsoft Word has a native Save As option that lets you choose PDF format for the resulting file. That preserves a lot of the accessibility features that you may have put in there. And it's the only method you have available if you don't have access to Adobe Acrobat DC. More on that in just a minute here. That will keep features and create a PDF file that could be downloaded by your students for something like a syllabus. Now, I mentioned 2.5 ways. There's another way under certain conditions, but in order to explain that, I need to make a distinction, and that is the distinction between Adobe Acrobat Reader and Adobe Acrobat DC. Nearly everybody is available. Nearly everybody is familiar with Adobe Acrobat Reader. It's a freebie. It allows you to read PDF files. It does not allow you to edit PDF files, which is why it's free. Adobe Acrobat's big brother is Adobe Acrobat DC. It's part of Adobe's Creative Suite. It's unfortunately, but it does allow you to edit PDF files. And it also has another important feature, and this gets interesting. If you install Adobe Acrobat DC on a computer that Microsoft Word installed, and you have full permissions on that computer, it being Adobe Acrobat DC, will add a new icon to your Microsoft Word toolbar, creates PDF files in a more powerful way than Microsoft Word does by itself. I'll screen here and show you what it looks like and where it is here. Let's see, I think we can get it from our list. We'll try that. Let's try. Yep, it looks like this, create and share Adobe PDF. And if you can see me moving to the upper right of my home toolbar, it's located up here, create and share Adobe PDF. That's the icon that results in that. And if I click on that button while I'm looking at a document, it will create a version, a PDF file version of my Microsoft Word file that preserves essentially all of the accessibility features, much better than the native Microsoft Word Save As PDF actually does. So assuming you formatted it correctly in the first place in Microsoft Word, you'll get a pretty high quality, reasonably accessible PDF file by using that third option, if you've got Adobe Acrobat DC. Now, we discovered something interesting about this when we were preparing for the presentation. I had that icon and had been using it for my co-presenters thought, well, I haven't heard about that. That's cool. Show me how to do that. So she added Adobe Acrobat DC. And lo and behold, she did not get the icon when she installed it. So we learned both Microsoft Office and Adobe Suite, Adobe Creative Suite, must permit add-ons at the user level, either the individual or the organization that owns the machine that you're using must permit that in order for that icon to get installed. So if it's not a personal machine you're doing this on, you may need to talk to the technical support folks to get the permission. I see something in the chat over here from Crystal Doyle saying, I have Adobe 2017 and have an Acrobat tab on my Word. Okay, thank you, Crystal. That may be an earlier version of this. I think I have a somewhat more recent one here, but it's good to know that that's been there for a while because it's significantly more powerful. So talking about sharing this stuff, sharing PDF files so you get a non-editable version shared, the moral of the story is don't print to PDF. If you don't have Acrobat, use Save As PDF. And if you have Acrobat DC, use the Create PDF icon that's added there along the way. Now, that's all Microsoft Word advice. The story's different for Google Docs, and it's Angie's turn to talk about sharing out of Google Docs, which does not play well with PDF files.
So I am a Mac user, lifelong since the 80s. And the one thing that I would like to talk about before I get into Google Docs is the readers. So Dr. B already spoke about Adobe Acrobat Reader. We do have Apple Preview that exists native in all of your Mac OS if you're Mac users. I know some of you are not, but if you are a Mac user, I do not recommend Preview. There is a screen reading function in it, but it totally disregarded any of the lists that I did in testing, and it will not look at anything other than as a text format. So you miss out on things, and if it was a vision impaired learner, they would not understand what was being read because it's all garbled words together. So buyer beware. If you are a Preview user, I still recommend downloading Adobe Reader if you're not using it to read through things, to make them accessible. So Google Docs. Sometimes you want things to be shared with your kids that they can edit, or your students, and sometimes you don't. So when we look at Google Docs, I'm going to share my screen again. Perhaps, oh, hold on, I will not share my screen. Sorry, I'll keep talking. I just ran into an error. There we go. I have to move this tab. Sorry. So when we share Google Docs, there's ways to get your Google Doc onto your LMS where your students can't edit it. You can either send it as a link, or you can you can publish to web and then share it that way with your students. And now I think I got it reloaded. There we go. It's still not showing up. Chevy, I'm having issues getting things to show up now on my end.
Is it not showing up on Windows Select, or are you clicking it? You might have to refresh the page, and I'd have to re-add you back as a moderator.
What happens if I select share entire screen?
You can do that. Just remember that you're currently on camera, so you won't be able to see yourself, but we will.
Oh, that's fine. If that'll work and I can make it work that way, I can get through that way. So let me entire screen, allow, and I'll make this larger so you can see it. Is that good in the window for y'all?
Yeah, I can see. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my options are I can go in to share this document with my students using the share function. I always choose a link, but there are settings that need to happen when you go into this link. I always set mine to anyone with a link. It's already embedded within your learning management system, so I'm not worried about external users getting into it. I mean, yes, a student could copy it and send it to someone, but to make sure that a student can get into it that's using Chrome that might have a specified browser, anyone with a link is the safest bet for you. And then you can choose viewer, commenter, or editor. I leave it as viewer if I don't want the students to be able to do anything with it. And then I can set it as editor if I want to share it with my students. And that's the easiest way to maintain accessibility of a Google Doc when you're sharing with students. But there are times, as we've discussed already, where I might have my syllabus published and I don't want them to be able to get into it and mess with it. To do that, you click on File. I go down to Publish to the Web, and this pulls up a new window. So I could share this link and they're not going to be able to edit it. They're literally going to have a new pop-up window in their browser. Or I can choose to embed it. I would take this code and then I would put that into the HTML window in my learning management system. It's going to pop up just like it would pop up in Google Docs. And one of the nice parts of that when you make this work is that I can go into my Google Docs and make an edit to my syllabus, and it will automatically update my LMS. Instead of pulling a document out of BlackBoard, making an edit, saving it, and re-uploading it to BlackBoard, which can be pretty extensive to do. This is the quicker way to update something that you don't want students to get to. Once again, you could restrict access, but if it's already in an LMS and they can't edit it, there's really no point to do it. So I never restrict access, and it's probably the easiest way, I think, to add something you don't want edited. This function does exist in the other parts of the Google Workspace. So you could publish tabs from Google Sheets or any of their other applications that you want to publish to are going to be using this feature. So I highly recommend this. And now I think I can stop sharing my screen. Okay, and now I'm back to not sharing my screen. So now that I showed you how to get through Google Docs and how to preserve those documents and make them editable or non-editable while keeping them accessible, what if you have a student that's in your course and you need to make your videos closed captioned? So there are different alternatives to making a closed caption video. You can send it to a paid subscription. There are many out there. Reb is one of them. However, there is quite a cost associated with it. And I know in public education, I don't have a budget for that, but I still want to be accessible for my students. So I choose to do that through YouTube. So I would like to walk you through how to make your video accessible in YouTube. I'm going to attempt to share my screen again. And it has decided that's not okay again. Okay, hold on. Try this again. Now, I guess I'm sharing my entire screen again. Okay, there's my YouTube channel. So if you have a Google Workspace login, a Gmail account, you have a YouTube channel that you can use. It is included within the Google Workspace. So to get to it, I would click on what I call the Brady Bunch symbol. I'm dating myself there. And then I scroll down and there's the YouTube link to get into your YouTube channel. So once you're in, I want to check my channel. First and foremost, to make this work, you have to ensure that your channel is set to English. There are settings you need to go through. So I'm going to show you how to check your settings. So I go to my channel. And then over on my left bar, I'm going to select settings. And then I'm going to select channel status and features. All right, so now I have a new pop-up window that I can see. And there are all these settings that you can take care of at the top. But first, you want to start at basic info and make sure that you're set to United States, because that's going to matter when it automatically creates your closed captioning. And then advanced settings, I teach K-12, so my school one would be set for yes, this is for children, and my WV1 is not set like that, but it matters on what kind of advertisements will pop up for your students when they look at your channel. You don't need to worry about any of these, except if you decide that you want to upload something longer than 15 minutes, you will need to verify your channel. When you first attempt to upload, it's going to tell you, no, that video is too long, and then you'll verify it with your phone number or your email address, and then you'll be good to upload videos as long as you want. And that might matter if you're putting up a longer lecture for your students. And then I go to upload defaults, and I go to advanced settings. And this is the most important step on being able to generate your closed captioning easily. Make sure your language is set to English, because that is going to help YouTube listen to your video and create the closed captioning. The reason YouTube is, I would say, superior to other free options out there, like many of us are using Zoom in education now, is because the Google Translate, the Google language service, they have a huge lexicon of words that they can use in education, and perhaps Zoom isn't there yet because it's still a young company. So I'm finding that the closed captioning I was getting in Zoom was missing my technical jargon that I might be using in a class. So that's why I would recommend doing this method through YouTube. Create beautiful Zoom videos, save them to your computer, but then upload them to YouTube. It takes the need for the Zoom cloud out. It removes that storage capacity from Zoom and adds it to your free YouTube account. And pretty much all K-12s are giving you endless space to put your videos. So consider this way. So I set my language to English, and now you save it. Mine's already set. So I'm going to upload a video for you, or just start so I can show you how to do closed captioning. So to upload your video, you click create and upload video. I'm going to select my file. I picked just any random movie that I thought would market well. So it'll open this window. Yes, it is a WV advertisement. I figured I should follow protocol. And I would go through all of these steps of uploading a thumb load. If I wanted to add a playlist, I could do that here. I'm going to say, no, it's not made for kids. I go to show more. And this is where if I've set I initialized my channel, it's automatically going to know it's English. So I don't have to do this again. It's going to know it's English every time I upload a video. If I'm a foreign language teacher, I probably would still set my language to English. But then if my video was in a foreign language, I would physically change it here when I uploaded my video. So go to next. Don't worry about that. It's extra stuff you really don't need yet. I know it says add subtitles. I'm going to show you an easier way to do that. And then it runs your checks. Next. It uploads it. You can set it to private, unlisted, or public. I often use unlisted in my LMS so that my kids have to go into my modules to learn instead of being able to click around on the outside in YouTube and find me on a channel. And you can also schedule Premiere so that you can launch it when you want it to launch for your students. And then I would click save. I'm not uploading it for you today, but the larger the video that you have, the longer it's going to take to generate your closed captioning. So if I have an hour video, I'm going to give it 24 hours. So my rule of thumb is upload it the day before you need it, and then you can look at your closed captionings the next day. So to get to the subtitles, I click subtitles. And here are some videos that I already have. You'll notice that I already have my language set to 1 because I set it to English in that initial step that I gave you when I formatted my channel. So I'm going to pick a video. And you'll see that I already have this in because I was demonstrating this to someone else, but it's published by creator or published automatically. So this published automatic, this is the subtitles that YouTube is going to generate. The three dots will give you this option to either unpublish it, download it, disregard this download. This is going to download file formats that you would have to go through an extra step. There is another way. Or you can delete it from there. So I am going to go in and show you by duplicating and edit. Yours will just say edit the first time you do it. So here is an old video that I made for something, and I gave it my 24 hours, and you will see it actually provided all this transcriptioning for me so that I didn't have to do the work, which was wonderful. So one thing I might need to do, I might need to go through and clean up the grammar as far as capital I for some reason comes in as lowercase I. Proper nouns would need cleaned up. You can either type it in or you can actually listen to your video.
And now I'd like to show you
and go through and make your edits while you're doing it. I use a space bar to start and stop, but you can use this pause while typing. Sometimes it gets glitchy, so that's why I'm just used to using the space bar. And I might want to download transcripts for my students. So I click on the 3 dots to download the transcriptions from here because it will download it now as a TXT file that you can open in Word, you can open in Google Docs, or you technically could make it one of those blank pages in your LMS. However, buyer beware. I have students that might know about the magic of the Command F on their keyboard. So if I provide a transcript to my entire class and then I give a test asynchronously that they have to take at home, they can easily open my transcript and they can open the transcript. They can copy paste the question from the test, just put it in the find button, and if the keywords are in there, it's going to find the answer in my transcript. So that is the easiest way for a high school kid to violate academic integrity. So I highly don't recommend giving the transcript out to everybody. I do it on a case-by-case basis. If a student would ask for it, I'll gladly give them the transcript, but I'm not going to make it readily available. So that is how you do your transcriptions in YouTube. And the important thing to remember is set your language first to English. Then upload your video, and every time you upload a video, it's already going to know it's English. Give it 24 hours, then go in and edit it, and it will play for you, and your closed captioning will be across the bottom of the video for your students. So that's all I have on that, and I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Beasley for last thoughts.
So what we've covered over the last 45 minutes or so is we've talked about creating documents that comply with accessibility guidelines, making sure that you formally designate titles and headers, making sure that any graphics that you use are placed in line and include alt tags for your graphics, and that any lists that you use, either bulleted or numbered, are formally designated as list rather than manually turned into list with things like the tab key and the space bar and the number keys. We've talked about converting Microsoft Word files into PDF files using different methodologies. Don't print to PDF, do save as PDF, and if you've got that Adobe icon, use that. We talked about the fact that Google Docs does not play particularly well with PDF files as far as converting to PDF. So Angie has given you a couple different ways of sharing Google Docs files, accessible Google Docs files with your students other than using a PDF file. And for those students who may need a written transcript, may not be able to hear the soundtrack for your videos, Angie has walked through the process of making sure that your YouTube videos at least have captions, and she's gone through the process of editing the captions, not just in punctuation, but also for accuracy to make sure the captions truly reflect the content of the video there. One of the things that you can do that I've been doing a lot recently is actually doing the recording of the videos in Zoom, which doesn't do a very good job with captioning, and then uploading them to YouTube and letting YouTube do the captioning and I do the final editing on the captioning. That combination has turned out to be reasonably efficient for me. It seems to work well and produce good captions for my videos. So I believe that's most of what we've covered during this particular session. I would love to see some good questions popping up here, and we actually do have a few minutes left for questions. So I noticed that Smita had a question about trying live captions in Chrome. I have not tried that, but if anybody has, I'd love to hear about that. And we're open for questions about anything that we've talked about here. Chevy, I'm assuming we will not get them by voice, that they'll be in the chat. Is that a true thing in the system?
Yes, we could allow people on screen, but usually we just have it in the chat.
Okay. So questions in the chat. Questions about accessible documents, captioning. Alex is saying that Camtasia does captions pretty well. I have not gained personal experience with that. Angie, I see you nodding. Have you tried that?
Is it free or is it a paid application?
Last time I checked, Camtasia is not free.
Waiting to see if Alex responds.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Alex is paid. I do know a number of people who use it. I personally have not. Ah, great question, Aaron.
It depends on which method you're using to create your captions. I find that YouTube is, it has a larger dictionary, so it's going to create my captions closer to what I actually say than I've had happen in Zoom. My part of my day is teaching music at the high school, and during COVID, we were asynchronous teaching music, which was very interesting. And one of the issues I ran into is the technical terms like syncopation, crescendo, the Italian terms that I use for like allegro, andante, presto. It had no idea what I was saying. Presto was press and toe. And so when I went into YouTube and uploaded it, I had a better rate of correct words. And that's the only reason I highly recommend YouTube to Zoom. Not that Zoom won't catch up, because it definitely has exploded in the last 18 months with the pandemic. But that, I just personally prefer YouTube, and it's free. I know Zoom, I have an account through work, and I think there's still the 45-minute teacher free option that was out there before. I see there's more questions.
I can see Sophie is not recommending using Google Docs to do transcripting.
Oh, I've not done it with voice to text. I've always just went in and just typed over the words that weren't picked up correctly. I've never done that. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, voice to text, depending on how you do it and depending on whether or not your computer believes you have an accent, has highly variable results. I've known some people who had excellent results with voice to text. My computer seems to think I have a Southern accent and doesn't always translate that terribly well. Other questions, experiences, comments? I can tell from looking at the people list here that we were aiming this presentation on this audience, and a lot of the people in the audience don't fall into that category.
Indeed. I put my correct email address towards the bottom of that. If you have any questions, or if you're not using BlackBoard as an LMS and you're using Canvas, I can help you if you decide you want to explore how to do that and you get stuck. I'm here to help.
I will say we're probably officially at the end of our time block here, and I want to make sure that we don't run over. Although I'm happy to stay here, and I imagine Angie is as well to deal with folks. There is always more to learn about accessibility. I started looking into this a few years ago and was astounded to discover, A, it's an enormous field, and B, it's really very poorly organized and addressed as far as the information. It's kind of the Wild West as far as ensuring accessibility. So many of you, I can tell in the audience, have already been working with this and also have found that and are dealing with that. But if you are interested in accessibility, there is plenty of room for work in this area, because the vast majority of people, especially who pivoted to online delivery during the pandemic, don't even know this exists. So please turn to the person next to you and help your colleagues with it. They need it. Put my email address in so that you have mine as well as Angie's. I thank you for your time today and your attention. As I say, I don't want to run over, because being a presenter, I don't like other presenters encroaching onto my time. But thank you for your time and attention, and best of luck. I'll type my email address in before I go, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.